Welcome in to Locked On Knicks, and it was a Christmas miracle over the weekend. The Knicks win 101-87 over the Hawks at home. And Gavin, there were so many great things to get into in this game, including a Kemba Walker triple-double and much more.
Yeah, we were just talking about it. It was pretty much stress-free. Julius Randle hit 6 3-pointers. Quentin Grimes is back better than ever. He hit 5 threes. Evan Fournier was rolling. Mitchell Robinson was battling with Clint Capella. A much-needed bit of relief for the New York Knicks, and we'll get into it right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. We want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On Knicks your first listen every day. We're, of course, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms and now on YouTube, where you can come and see our beautiful faces every day. So if you wouldn't mind, and you haven't checked out YouTube already, just head to YouTube, search for Locked On Knicks, subscribe to the channel if you wouldn't mind, even if you plan on mostly listening. Helps us out a bunch. But I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrict.land. He is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And we are going into this amazing Christmas Day win for the Knicks. I mean, Gavin, I don't know how you felt about this game going in. I was definitely worried. I was like, man, this feels like a perfect opportunity for the Knicks to get embarrassed. Like the Hawks without Trae Young, I worried that the Knicks were going to, kind of take them lightly or whatever. But as it turned out, they didn't. I mean, I think that they actually, maybe there's just no way that the Knicks would ever take the Hawks lightly after the playoff series. But I just think that they came out with so much fire. They came out ready to play, even though it was a noon start, clearly energized by the fact that they had the Christmas Day leadoff game. And I think that, the most impressive thing was that they came out, they just displayed a ton of shot making early. They really set the tone, as far as passing the ball, whipping it around the perimeter. They end the game with 28 assists to just 23 for the Hawks. So, I mean, a really good assist performance when we've seen the Knicks end some games with 14 lately. I feel like I think they had all of 4 assists in the third quarter of a game recently. By the time they're midway through the third quarter. So things have been ugly on that front recently. This game, I just thought they looked really reinvigorated against a team that Trae Young or not is still pretty dangerous and still definitely had the ability to beat the Knicks if they had played well.
Yeah, I mean, it was what we're looking for out of this team all year, right? Just a coherent 4-quarter effort. The Hawks made their little runs at points, but we've seen the Knicks so many times this season just fall apart when another team pushed back. I remember there was a stat, I think it was through the first 17 games of the year, that the Knicks had the lead in the second half of all but 1 or 2 of those games. I mean, this is a Knicks team that has not generally gotten their butt kicked, right? They roll over at a certain point usually. And this game, it was steady. And to your point, it never really felt in danger. I just felt good the entire game. And that's such a rare experience watching the Knicks this year.
Yeah. And, the feel good nature of it. I mean, I don't know when we were planning on talking about this, but I'm just going to get out of the way early. The most fun part about this game was Kemba Walker got within a rebound of a triple double, very quietly. All of a sudden it was third quarter, I think they started realizing that he was getting close to a triple double. Yeah. And then for a good part of the fourth, he was chasing this elusive 10th rebound to give him his third triple double of his career. Even though Nets Daily on Twitter can't read and seem to think that this was misinterpreted by Knicks PR. The Knicks PR account did in fact tweet out a proper statistic, which was Kemba was the first Knick to ever get a triple double on Christmas Day, and the second Knick ever to follow up a 40-point game with a triple double. The first being Carmelo Anthony. So 2 really impressive statistical feats, but Gavin, the hilarity was just all there with him trying to get that final rebound. We had Julius Randle mic'd for sound by ESPN, where they caught him. Kemba was at the free throw line and Julius was going hey, you're on triple double watch. You're on triple double watch. to him, and then goes to him a second later, like, you just worry about the rebound, throw it to me, I'll give you an assist. In that, he'll just make a three or whatever. And then Julius, like, I think the very next possession gets a pass from Kemba and nails a 3-pointer, and then just like stared Kemba down and smiled at him the whole way back down. That was a really feel good moment. Then when he was trying to get that final rebound, Taj first was in the game and grabbed a rebound, and Kemba was in the vicinity and nobody else was close, and Taj grabbed it, turned around, and then went, oh no, and tossed the ball to Kemba to start the transition run. That was hilarious. And then Alec Burks, trying to be a good teammate, was attempting to box out some Hawks players to let Kemba chase a rebound towards the sideline. Inadvertently, I think the ball kind of like took a quicker trajectory than he thought. So he winds up kind of boxing Kemba out from the rebound. And then they're just sort of like running tangled together towards the sideline, trying to let Kemba get it. And they couldn't quite figure it out. And you could see once they turned to the camera view on the other side, they were both like smiling and laughing as it was all happening. And Burks ends up grabbing that rebound. Finally, on a totally unassuming play, Kemba sneaks in and grabs his 10th rebound. And the Garden went crazy. It was just a really fun moment. I don't know. I thought it was like sort of the perfect encapsulation of the day, other than maybe the other great moment, which was late in the game, pretty much garbage time at that point. RJ Barrett gets out in transition, finds Obi Toppin ahead of the field, and he busted out yet another through the legs dunk in a game and nailed it Christmas Day at the Garden. And it was about the loudest I've heard the Garden since fans have been back, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it felt like a three-legged race when Kemba and Burks were going for that ball. But covered up, it was a spectacular game for Kemba Walker, even though he shot just 3 for 12. I loved how he accelerated the Knicks' pace. I mean, we always talk about that being an absolute necessity. I mean, I really thought it was part of it was Fournier and Randle. I mean, it was a little bit of everything, right? It was Fournier and Randle shooting well. It was Grimes coming in and really being a spacer. And it was Kemba right from the start, right? Because he only finished this game with 10 points. But he got 8 of them, I think, in the first 4 minutes and really set the tone. Like, it felt like after the Knicks got out to that 19-3 lead, the Hawks cut it, I think, as close as 5, but it just, to me at least, maybe because I watched most of the game after the fact, it never felt that competitive. But I love it felt like Tibbs like scripting an opening set of plays, almost like a football coach. I mean, I guess that's literally what he did. But it was a very first play of the game. You had Kemba passing the ball to Randle, who had a little shuffle pass to Mitch. And then Randle goes over to set a screen for Kemba. Kemba goes over the drag, nails a 3. Similar setup the next play, but it's Mitch setting a screen. He rolls to the rim, gets a dunk. Then third play, a little give and go, dribble handoff with Randle, a baseline attack, slings a pass across the court to RJ, extra kick to Evan Fournier, 3 points, or excuse me, or he hit a 3 possessions, 8 points for the Knicks. And then he had that blow by on Bogey. It was just, it set the tone really quick. And then I thought he did a fantastic job. And he's so good for Evan Fournier, right? Because Fournier has struggled all year trying to attack set defenses. And Kemba is constantly looking for him in semi-transition, right? It's not like he's streaking ahead for layups, but Fournier got an easy 3 just because Kemba was aware enough off the rebound to throw it ahead to him. I mean, maybe one of my single favorite plays of the game was when Kemba like got the board, and I can't remember who the Hawks player was, but went hard for the steal, and then he just did like this nasty spin move before sending it ahead to Fournier for that 3 ball. So he has a effect beyond. I mean, obviously the triple double pretty much captures it, but he definitely has an effect beyond the scoring.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought this was his most complete game so far this year, and I liked seeing him kind of switch into distributor mode. It was like, it's just like the first, 20 games or whatever prior to him getting benched. The big thing was that he couldn't find a balance, and it was like some nights it seemed like he was too determined to distribute, but what the team really needed was for him to score. And some nights it seemed like he was scoring, but what the team really needed was for him to distribute, because it turned out he would end up being the only person scoring. And these last few games since he got back, it seems like he just has a better read on what the team needs from him any given night, and is working better with Julius Randle, as far as finding looks for one another. I mean, I really thought, and I thought Fournier too, for the Knicks, like big 3, quote unquote, they haven't always played like it this year, but going into the season, we thought that those 3 guys could potentially be the like big 3 of the team, or maybe RJ Barrett instead of Fournier, but whatever. Those 3 guys I thought really started figuring things out in this game, maybe more so than any other game this year. And again, the Hawks little depleted, more than a little depleted. Every team is pretty depleted at the moment though, so I'm not really gonna like give them a huge handicap for that or anything, even though they were missing their best player. But like, the Knicks managed to really put something together, and it's not like they were playing the Detroit Pistons like the other night. I think this Hawks team, even minus Trae Young, is still a much better team than a team like the Pistons. So to see the Knicks, whipping the ball around the perimeter, looking like they had a plan, you know, managing to have Kemba Walker kind of run the show and Julius Randle kind of run the show, and still find opportunities for Evan Fournier to like put the ball on the floor and kind of do what he does best at times. I thought it was just really good. It was a really well orchestrated game, top to bottom for the Knicks. And I loved almost everything except for maybe like a little bit of the Julius Randle stuff where, there were a couple times, first off early in the game after they kind of went on their like big run to start the game, and then a little bit later on in the game where he was maybe, driving into the teeth of the D a little too much. But I applaud the effort, honestly, when he was mostly looking to make good passes and stuff for most of this game and keep the ball moving. But I'm sure we got plenty more to talk about as far as that's concerned. But Gavin, I was wondering real quick, I think I want to gift myself post Christmas with a little bit more money in my bank account. So is there an app that can maybe help me do that?
Oh, there's definitely one. It's called Truebill, Alex. Do you know why free trials? I'm surprised you don't remember. We talk about it a lot. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. Truebill is a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. Truebill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts, and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. Truebill's over 2 million users and help them save over $100 million. So don't fall for the subscription scams. Start canceling today at Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. And we are back on Locked On Knicks. I want to get to Julius Randle in just a sec, Alex. But first, I want to talk Quentin Grimes a little bit, right? Because on paper, not a spectacular shooting game, 5 for 14 in 25 minutes, but it's worth taking into account. This is a guy who gets up an insane volume of threes. He was 5 for 12 from distance, which is obviously very good. His form is just immaculate. He seems automatic from the corners. And I think the Knicks offense flows better when he's in it. It was so many different factors, and it's hard to tell. Like if Randall had been shooting threes like he had all season, or Fournier had been shooting like he had all season, like would Grimes' spacing have mattered as much? Maybe not, but the cumulative effect of all those guys really just there's a lack of congestion, and it's palpable when you're watching this team play. And I'm so fascinated to see what Grimes' minutes are like when everyone starts to get healthy. And maybe if tonight it could have been just a product of RJ like being a bit off, and we want to give RJ like every chance in the world because he's coming off of COVID. He was sick for a month, like really, really rough season for RJ Barrett. And obviously Tibbs is going to give him his time. He's going to have some big games inevitably, but I'm genuinely curious if by the end of the year, the Knicks are better with Quentin Grimes on the floor or RJ Barrett on the floor.
Well, and it's funny that you bring up that comp because I was literally just about to say like, yeah, I could see a world where maybe putting Grimes in the starting lineup for RJ for a little bit makes sense because I think RJ and Obi have such great chemistry together that it makes sense to explore that more off the bench. And that also gives you an opportunity. You could still get RJ out there with the starters, even if Grimes is the one starting the game, you could still play Grimes 15 to 20 minutes a game while having him start the halves just to kind of have him out there for like a little bit more consistent shooting presence at the moment. And also, yeah, just all the little things that he does just seem to work really well. I mean, I guess on the surface, like he and RJ are sort of similar players at the moment, which seems kind of crazy because like RJ, obviously with the pedigree of the third pick, I think there is still a lot more to RJ potentially, in his career than what, he's shown so far just based off of the flashes that we've seen. But like fundamentally, I think, especially with how they're used with the starters right now, I think they serve basically the same purpose, right? Like threes, defense, a little bit of being able to like, make a good pass, and maybe put it on the floor and get like towards the hoop a little bit going downhill. I think they could both kind of do that right now. And so it might be smart to kind of utilize the utility that you get out of RJ, in the other aspects of his game, like his distributing and, a little bit more creation and stuff, if you put him with the bench unit where he could sort of shine as like the star of the bench, especially with Derrick Rose out right now. But like, I could see a world where it would be a really fun lineup to have, quickly, wow, it's almost too crowded at this point. But like, I forgot about Deuce for this, but like quickly, RJ, Burks, Obi, and whatever, Taj, pick your center. I mean, I think that would be a really fun bench lineup that could really score a lot of points in a hurry and would just run and run and run and run and run, and it would be a lot of fun to watch. So it is something worth exploring. I mean, Grimes just looks so good right now. I mean, I love everything that he's been showing lately. He seems completely ready for the moment, and I think the Knicks have really found themselves another steal at pick 25. So I guess that's just like Walt Perrin's sweet spot as a drafter is evaluating that 25th slot in the draft, because like Quickly and Grimes on back-to-back years so far seems like two of the bigger steals of the draft in both years if Grimes can keep this level of production up.
Yeah, we got to hope the Mavericks go on a real run, because I don't know if the Knicks are getting there at this point. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I think RJ is a fantastic, a much better fit with the bench guys. Like I haven't liked him and Randle together this whole year, and even last season when they were both shooting insanely well. I don't always think it was a perfect fit. Like they've always sort of felt like dueling banjos to me. Like when was the last time this season, at least? I mean, and again, RJ's like we mentioned has had the season from hell, so you got to take that into account. But I can't remember those two having a productive play together in recent memory. And it wasn't that RJ was all bad in this game. He made some really smart passes. He was pinging the ball around pretty well. Finished with 4 assists, but the shot just again was not there tonight. And to me, my primary concern with RJ is, can he get stuff around the rim? Can he get to the foul line? Tonight, the answer in both of those was pretty much a no. Alex, is there anyone in particular you want to bounce next? I guess we haven't touched on Julius Randle yet, who was nominally the star of this game.
Yeah, I really liked what Julius brought. Like I said, I harped it, and I think Julius is always gonna, it's always gonna be the guy that we focus in on the most and have the highest expectations for. So it's easy to zoom in on the the negatives of his game sometimes, but all in all, I mean, it was definitely a positive game for him. Definitely one of his better ones this season. As I said, I think this is one of the best like symbiosis between he and Kemba and Fournier games of the season easily. Dating all the way back to like, I think some of their best looks were in like the preseason in the first few games of the season. We haven't seen anything nearly that good since. I think they started going towards recapturing that in this game. I thought that Julius, he towed the line well of, do I try to distribute? Do I try to, break the defense down and look for my own? Do I, make the extra pass real quick or whatever? I mean, he was doing a really good job, and he wasn't too obsessed with like being the engine of the offense. It didn't seem like he had some moments, like I said, where he was kind of dribbling it into like doubles, triples, and lost a few balls that way. He did have 3 turnovers, so that's not the best against only 3 assists, but like 3 turnovers is actually a fairly low figure for him. And he was able, and the team was able to recover a few of those lost balls. So it's kind of like no harm, no foul at that point. But his scoring was as good as it's been all year, I think, with the 25 points, 9 of 15 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3 is obviously what stands out. He made some of those as catch and shoots. I think he had 1 or 2 pull-ups as well. So like a variety of 3-pointers. You got to just hope that he can capture some of that, because really one of the bigger differences of last season versus this season is that his pull-up triples and his step backs and all that stuff aren't falling at nearly the rate they were last year, even if his catch and shoot has been pretty good this year. So, we just got to hope that he could sort of bottle some of what he did here, maybe call it like the essence of Christmas or something, and and have that to sip on the rest of the year, because I mean, he was great for pretty much this whole game, and I was really impressed with how he played.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a stat out there that this is pretty much what he's done in national TV games all year, and then he's just been horrific in non-national TV games. So maybe Knicks PR should just start lying to him and be like, "Hey, Julius TNT tonight." He's like, "Really? That's like the 7th game in a row." Like, "Oh yeah." I mean, they love how you're playing. But yeah, I think he benefits a lot when he just gets to basically be a finisher, right? And he doesn't have to, like, I mean, not that he threw some great, like he had a fantastic like speedy pass to Grimes in the corner for this game, but and it's so contingent on a shot falling, but when the floor is open, it feels like he doesn't feel as much of a pressure to force stuff. And I mean, I've said this for literally every point I made. It helps when everyone else is hitting shots, obviously, but I think he just played very, very light, and he said as much post game, and that it leads to a very different player. You could see it on his shot because like the last few weeks he's been like looking like he's like constipated basically every time he has to shoot. And today it was smooth. It was fantastic. So more of that, less of what we've got in the past would be fantastic for Julius Randle. But if he really wants to maintain Alex, probably all he has to do is eat a couple of Built Bars.
Yeah, and check this out. I'm going to ad-lib my first ever Built Bar ad because our holiday one expired, but that's still what's in our system right now. So I got nothing to work on. So I'm going to see if I can do one completely off the dome. All right, so Built Bars, they are the best tasting protein bar on the market. I do mean that. I'm speaking my own words now, so I'm not reading off a script. There are so many great flavors. There's cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, cherry, mint brownie, raspberry. So many great flavors to choose from. Always have limited edition flavors coming out that you can pick up for limited times. I recently have had some Built Puffs. Those are really good. They like kind of marshmallowy on the center and, really airy. There was a ruby chocolate one. I don't know if that's hit the market yet, but like ruby chocolate, come on, that's like a super premium ingredient. It was really, really good. The new year obviously is coming up. So a lot of people, maybe not the basketball players. I can't really use that, but, us normal folk, a lot of us have probably had a lot too much to eat during this last month, looking to work off some of those pounds, build up some muscle going into the new year. Built Bars are perfect for that. The bars generally have less than 180 calories per bar and low sugar, low carbs, all that good stuff, as well as a really high amount of protein, usually 17 to 18 grams per bar. So if you want to get some Built Bars for yourself, go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right. I think that ad break was proof that we've been doing Built Bar for too long, but that's a lie.
I was going to say, I think your final words are just going to be you muttering Built Bar flavors under your breath.
Yeah. Get me a cookies and cream Built Bar. I can't take my final rest until I get one.
One last bite. One last bite.
One last bite. That's all I need. And then the protein boost will raise me from the dead.
Yeah, you shoot up. I feel great.
Anyway, all right, moving on to talk about our final few housekeeping notes for this game. So I think we got to talk about Obi Toppin some. He's starting to take the title that used to belong to Emmanuel Quickley of the per minute maestro, where he's now doing so much per minute that it makes you kind of shake your head and be like, okay, I know that he just got back from COVID protocols, but he was able to come back in the last game, and Tibbs kind of took the training wheels off for some of the other guys in this game, like Grimes getting 25 and a half minutes. Obi clearly looked pretty spry, so I don't think it was a conditioning thing. So, and Randle played 34 minutes, but I don't know, Taj played 17 minutes, Mitch played 30. I think you probably could have reduced some of those Taj minutes and gone small for at least a little bit when Capella was off the floor. But at any rate, Obi Toppin, 13 minutes and 41 seconds plays in this game. Goes 5 of 8 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 13 points, and an assist. And obviously the moment of the game, other than maybe all the Kemba shenanigans, which I mentioned earlier, was late in the game. The Garden crowd is already buzzing. Kemba had just gotten that final rebound a couple minutes prior, and the crowd had been sporadically chanting Kemba Walker after that for minutes after, I think even after Kemba went to the bench. And then Obi's like, oh, my turn. And, RJ Barrett gets the ball in transition. Obi's doing his Obi thing and is already almost at the free throw line on the other side because he was just ready to break out and get out in transition. And he catches the pass, goes up, hits a through the legs dunk in game for the second time this season. Luckily he hit it late in the game this time. If everybody recalls, the last one that he hit, I'm already forgetting who it was against. All I remember was that it was in the second quarter. Was it the Bucks? I don't know. It was the second quarter. The Knicks were playing pretty good, and they were in the game, and sort of within a few points. Obi hits the between the legs dunk, and the Knicks thought that it was like a game breaker in NBA Street, and then just like completely stopped playing after that. And just we're like, oh, we won because Obi hit the through the legs dunk. No, it doesn't work that way.
It was
Luckily,
against the Pacers.
Pacers. That's who it was. Yeah. So luckily this time the game was in hand, and Obi hits it. The garden roof like blows off. I'm sure that you could probably hear that all the way over at the Empire State Building or up in Times Square or something, because that place was rocking. Even though some people, it looked like it already kind of left to beat the crowds. Like that place was so loud. It was really cool. Probably about the loudest it's been since the playoffs last year. But yeah, other than the huge dunk, I mean, I thought Obi just played his brand of ball. He was making backdoor cuts for like beautiful alley oops that some of them he caught from Kemba, which that was some of his best connections were to Obi, as well as I think he caught the one from Burks. That one was really good. I mean, just a lovely game for Obi in this one, and the latest in a string of them. And I hope that sooner than later, even though this is a great game overall, I hope that Obi really can start finding more minutes soon, because it's starting to get like really inexcusable to have him out there for less than like 20 minutes every game.
Yeah, and the Knicks have so many guys, I think, who can get to the middle of the lane but not really finish. So it really helps to have an Obi Toppin who is there as an outlet for a lob. Like we saw with Burks, we saw with RJ. Kemba tried to force one to him where he probably should have just taken a layup, but those passes are readily available, and they're honestly better shots than those guys forcing up flow. I mean, obviously a lob is a better shot, but Obi's so good at getting to those spots consistently, even though defenses should really know it's coming pretty much every single time. Mitchell Robinson, I think another person who had a very good game, statistically, like pretty, not super exciting outside the 5 blocks, also had 4 points, 8 boards, but you just constantly saw him battling with Clint Capella, right? Every single offensive rebound was one Mitch got and then went back up for a foul, which was really nice, but Capella was getting a good chunk of them, but he really, really had to fight. And for Mitch, as we always say, I mean, the barometer is effort and activity every single night. If he brings those things, he's doing the right stuff. Again, I empathize with him. There's some real frustration. There was a play where he got a switch onto, he might have been like Skylar Mays or something. It was just one of Atlanta's really tiny guards. And Kemba just sort of looked him off to throw it to Randle. Randle was wide open for 3. The guard ran away. Mitch was literally by himself under the basket. Randle drained the 3, so you can't blame him. But I do empathize with Mitch, and I understand why he's a little less motivated to run sometimes, because the dude just cannot catch a break getting the basketball, even though he doesn't really have much of a post game. I'd love if the Knicks would just occasionally throw him the ball when he gets an insane mismatch like that. Maybe he gets a dunk, maybe he draws a foul, but just as a way to sort of keep him engaged and keep him active, I think that would be really good. But overall, just a solid game, and didn't really have to do that much with so many other Knicks contributing scoring wise.
Yeah, and I thought that it was just sort of like, he was doing his vintage stuff, blocked a 3-pointer, really like made Capella's life pretty hard, and Capella was coming back from COVID protocols himself. So, maybe it was maybe Capella was a little slowed because of that. But like, I mean, he was really doing his thing. Like, I thought he set the tone early with a nice block on Capella, sort of just like a little like, okay, things aren't going to be how they used to be when you guys were here for the playoffs. Like, I'm here now. I'm gonna make sure that things aren't as easy for you. And Capella, only shot 2 of 7 for the game. I didn't look up like the tracking stats to see how he did when Mitch guarded him, but it seemed like by and large Tibbs had a plan to shadow Capella's minutes with Mitch, and he did a pretty good job executing that plan. And I think it was a good showing for Mitch, even though it wasn't a super gaudy box score game for him. Like you said, the effort was there. He was putting a butt into somebody all the time, as far as the rebounds were concerned. And obviously you saw that play out to other guys getting a lot of rebounds, like Julius with 12, Kemba with 10. The Knicks, I think, were at one point in like the third quarter, I think they had like an 11 rebound advantage over the Hawks, which is something that, if you would have said that after last year's playoff series, that the Knicks were capable of getting an 11 rebound advantage over the Hawks, I would have told you crazy, or would have said you were crazy, because it's just like, that didn't look possible back in the playoffs. The Hawks just really abused them on the rebounds, in large part thanks to Capella, because the Knicks just had nobody that was big enough to contend with him. And Mitch definitely was big enough and did the job as far as neutralizing Capella as much as you can, despite the fact that, obviously Capella's a really talented player, really talented rebounder, and a really big body out there. So that's definitely easier said than done. I figure we can maybe just give props to some of the other guys somewhat rapid fire. We already mentioned it, but Fournier had a really good game, I thought. Not his most statistically uh, jump off the page game, which I feel like I've said for a few guys now, but it just kind of speaks to the fact that this was like a really nice up and down team effort. Only one guy over 20 points, and that was Julius Randle. But five guys in double figures, and like almost every player that touched the floor scored at least 5 points, except for Mitch and Matt Mooney and Tyler Hall, who played all of 2 minutes to end the game. So, it was a good team showing in that regard. And I thought the Fournier was really part of that. He was being smart. He didn't take too many attempts, 6 of 12 overall, 3 of 6 from three. So he really picked his spots. He wasn't like forcing anything like he has sometimes this year. I thought that he was, making good decisions too about, do I pull the trigger on this three? And he was being decisive about that and taking the good shots. I think, if it was wide open, he didn't hesitate. And that's been his biggest issue in some of his worst games this year is he gets the ball and you see him, you can see like the gears turning and the smoke starting to come out of his ears. But with him just quickly trying to think like, oh man, do I have it in me to make this shot? Am I hot? Am I cold? Should I take this? Whatever. Should I pass it to somebody else? And then, he winds up taking a half-hearted pump fake and then not doing anything, and his defender gets there. And then all of a sudden he's got to put it on the floor or something. So I was glad to have not seen any of those. It was quick decisions, being confident enough to say, okay, there's not a defender close to me. I'm just going to shoot it. And if there was a defender, he wasn't taking any foolish shots. He was really good about putting it on the floor, made like a nice floater along the baseline at one point after he kind of got around his defender on a little like head fake, which was nice to see. I mean, I thought a really complete offensive effort from him, including 3 assists to go with everything else too. So I thought it was a really good game for him.
Yeah, 10 of his 15 points came in 3 minutes, and that last one was off that Kemba spinning pass. Was just one of the prettiest shots you'll ever see, like that high arcing rainbow three. He's someone who looks really good when he's looking good. He looks really bad when he's looking bad. But I love that. I mean, to your point, he didn't try to do too much, right? Like everything came within flow, and it was very similar to Randle. Like his life is so much easier when he just gets to be a finisher and when he doesn't have to really create against the set defense. And Kemba basically spoon fed him. And that's, I mean, the one thing that with Derrick Rose out for 8 weeks, you really have to look forward to is I think that's not that Rose wasn't good for Fournier, but they barely played together. Kemba is really, really good for Fournier in a way that Alec Burks, who's not his fault, but just not a point guard, could not help him. Alex, anyone else you want to touch on before we wrap this up, or you want to call it?
I guess you just invoked his name. I thought Alec Burks had like a decent, inoffensive game. I thought that he played like 17 minutes, 2 of 4 shooting, 1 of 2 from three. Just a nice little like 5 points, 3 boards, 2 assists. I thought that he's kind of did his thing. He played a nice game. Taj, other than the accidentally stolen Kemba rebound, which was hilarious. Also, I thought put together a pretty good effort, in his 17 and a half minutes, like did a good job kind of holding the fort down when Mitch wasn't out there. Although I maybe would have preferred to see maybe like 5 minutes that he played have been dedicated to trying to go small for a bit in the minutes that Capella was out of there, considering Capella only played 27 or roughly 28 minutes. But, Taj did his thing as usual. And I guess I'll just say their names one more time because it might be the last time we get a chance to. Matt Mooney and Tyler Hall played in this game. And once Deuce is back and once Quickly's back, that those guys, their time might be up. So we'll just enjoy the fact that they got to get out there, and Matt Mooney got to attempt a 3-pointer late in this game. So good for those guys.
Once a Nick, always a Nick.
Yeah, we'll always remember you, Matt Mooney, and your 0 of 1 from 3. But at any rate, yeah, this has been Locked On Knicks. Merry belated Christmas to everybody. Thanks for listening to today's show. We'll, of course, have more game recaps for you guys this week and some other shows when we figure out what we're going to do now that we're kind of recalibrating after the holiday. So we'll have plenty more coming for you guys this week. Thanks for listening as always, and we will talk to you all soon. Peace out, guys.